And now on the board, the Chicago Bears with Dave Wannstedt. And the question to our Craig James, with the Bears on the board and on the clock, do we have the evolution of Thierry? The Chicago Bears on the clock, about 9 minutes to go, but they're not going to wait that long. Their card is coming up. And John Thierry, an outside backer that can bring the pressure. The guy that Jimmy Johnson had eyed when he was head coach. It sounds like old news, right? When he was head coach of the Cowboys. He's been rumored to have helped Dave Wannstedt in this draft. Do they match?
With the 11th pick in the first round, the Chicago Bears select John Thierry, defensive end, Alcorn State. The New Orleans Saints are now on the clock.
Well, there you have it, the evolution of John Thierry from Alcorn State, now going to Chicago to play for the Chicago Bears.
I'll tell you, I think he's one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 football players in the draft. I think what pushed him down was the Alcorn State factor. I think when you get to draft day, what happened during the year is tend to superseded by athletic ability and also the college you came from. I think the safe pick dictates. The safe pick for some clubs like Indy was Trev Alberts. John Thierry last to 11 to the Chicago Bears. Here's a guy at the Senior Bowl that made some plays. You see LaShawn Johnson streaking through the middle. John Thierry making the tackle down the field. A big kid, 245 to 250 pounds. Great striking ability. People say he didn't make a lot of impact plays at Alcorn State. That was more the nature of their defensive scheme. He had a drop into coverage, play in space, did a very good job in that area. And that's why I thought he was one of the most complete, pure outside linebackers in the draft.
Well, the last time there was a first-round pick from Alcorn State was 1980. Roynell Young, an outstanding corner of the Philadelphia Eagles. Chicago Bears hoping they get the same richness as the Eagles did with their first-round pick from Alcorn State. Let's head up to New England and Tom Jackson. And obviously, had Bill Parcells moved anywhere, this has got to be one of the guys he was looking at, Tom.
A little bit of a question on Thierry as far as the quality and the caliber of competition he played against. But I think when we look at the pass and we look at the SWAC, we've seen so much talent come out of that league. I think there's no question he's going to be a big-time player in this league. Let's go to Andrea Kramer at the Vikings headquarters.
Thank you very much, TJ. When I spoke to head coach Dave Wannstedt this morning, he told me he had 3 defensive players on the board. Kind of figured that out to be Trev Alberts, Antonio Langham, and John Thierry. When Phoenix was on the board, needless to say, they were questioning whether or not that would be Thierry. When it was Jameer Miller, they were quite happy about that. The question, how will they play John Thierry? From what I'm hearing from the Bears, they will play him down as a defensive end. Remember, Richard Dent unsigned, Dante Jones also unsigned. He's a linebacker, but could we be seeing the next Richard Dent? Right now, let's head to Chris Mortensen in Indianapolis.
Well, since Boomer mentioned this earlier about Jimmy Johnson being a consultant, he laughed it off and he was emphatic. In fact, he said the last time he spoke to Jimmy Johnson was 2 weeks ago, and Jimmy was headed for Key Largo, trying to find out the best snorkeling spots, and was worried about whether the Manatee were going to get enough water. So Dave Wannstedt had no contact with Jimmy Johnson in the last 2 weeks, and he basically said this is his draft, and it was the way he was going to pick it. Back to New York.
But this is a team that frankly could not move the ball at all last year, and you have to have some offense. That being said, does the pick surprise you?
No, the pick does not surprise me. I think that Dave Wannstedt has taken not only a just next year look at his football team, what he's doing is he's looking down the road at the building process of this ball club. Dave Wannstedt has a lot of needs. He's just filling some right now. I think this is a very good pick. I had a chance to visit with John Thierry last night, and I want to tell you something. This kid is as class as you're going to find. Plus, as Mel pointed out, and I thought it's very important, different than Trev Albert, who's played down so much and probably will play inside for the Colts. Thierry has the ability to play in space. That's a big key. You got a guy now who can go into pass coverage as well as put pressure on the quarterback. So he gives you a lot of versatility. Obviously, the Bears have a lot of different needs. They just addressed this one in the first round.
And this story about John Thierry, this is, you say Alcorn State, he didn't have the coaching, he doesn't have the mind, well, and that's where you're wrong. John Thierry is a pre-med student that wants to be a biochemist. There was one day at practice at Alcorn State when a couple of the scouts went down to look at him, and he really wasn't into it. And his head coach pulled him over after about 15 or 20 minutes, said, John, what's the matter? I mean, obviously at Alcorn State, he stands head and shoulders above everybody else. And I don't know, I just don't get it. The coach says, well, I don't get it either. What's the matter? And Thierry said, well, I don't get it. There was a big involved chemistry experiment earlier I did today in class. I followed everything everything exactly right, but it didn't work. And he was so annoyed by the failure of this chemistry experiment, it affected him on the football field. So here is a young man that's got an awful lot in addition to football ability, which, Mel, he also has.
He does.
Grown up down in Mississippi, Louisiana, John Thierry been a Saints fan, but you know who some classify him as? John Thierry reminds them of a young Isaiah Robertson who played at Southern in the same conference as Thierry's Alcorn State. We'll be back.